Hi, and welcome to Mod of the Week. Let's talk Airbox mods. There are a lot of things that people will do to their Airbox just to get more airflow into the system. The Airbox isn't particularly restrictive, but you can get some benefits by opening it up. It does restrict itself, trying to avoid getting dirt and stuff into it. So with the Airbox, most people like to pull out the snorkel, just because this snorkel isn't very big. As you can see, this is the hole that it goes into, which is right there, and that's the size of it, and it only uses maybe half of the space to flow air through. A lot of people will pull this out. It helps a lot, except for at very high speeds. Most people aren't concerned with very high speeds. They're using it as dirt bikes, so the benefit of this being more open is more important to them than being able to go over 60 miles an hour, where the benefit of having air being pushed kind of directly into the box matters. On my brother's bike, we just fixed it with a snorkel. It couldn't go over 80. It was having issues. I mean, KLXs typically can't go over 80. 351 should get up to 90. But when you're going really fast, you can get turbulence here because you're just blowing air across here and it doesn't really get into there, and your engine has a hard time pulling it down when it's already moving in a laminar direction. Some people take off the whole airbox lid and just leave it open. Yeah, I wouldn't do that because there's no real benefit to it. But the one thing that I can say is that pulling out this does make the engine louder, but pulling the airbox lid completely off makes it very loud. Some people will go and they will drill extra holes in their airbox. Rather than taking the lid off, they'll drill some holes in the sides, like in the front maybe. But they'll drill a few holes in them and they'll put in like PVC parts. And the benefit of this, I haven't done that, but the benefit of this is you can cap them if you ever go off-road. Like say you were to have something like right here, then you could have it still having that direction to it, directionalism. And then if you ever go off-road, have a chance of going underwater, then you can cap it. I wouldn't recommend doing that either. I don't think it's necessary. There's companies that sell little like filters that you can stick into there. You can drill out like an inch hole or something and then put a filter in it. So one mod people will do is they will pull out this backfire screen. This isn't something really worth doing because there's a chance that your engine will backfire into the air filter and then burn it up, ruin it. It's a 1 in a million chance, but a million engine fires happens over the course of about 20 hours of riding, and I'm not sure it provides any benefit realistically. I trust Kawasaki engineers, and if you calculate the airflow through this, with the original 250, it caps out at about 80, 90 kilometers per hour. You want a reasonable amount of airspeed to keep your fuel efficiency up. With a lot more openness, it just keeps reducing the airspeed, and then you have more friction from disrupting laminar flow across the airbox. Having your engine open as much as possible is not always your best bet because it can cause you problems with friction. You want everything flowing in right. So a lot of people, they go and they find the OEM snorkel for a KLX250, which uses the same airbox, a lot of the same parts, even though it's two-stroke. Since it's two-stroke, a 220, you can think of it as like a 450. When you measure this out, then it's about twice the amount of area as the OEM one, which would mean for a 350 kit that this would be running at about 65 kilometers per hour. So that's more like this, but still is less restricted overall compared to what the 250 was. We put one on my brother's bike, which had that turbulence issue when it was going above 80. You could rev it up to its limiter at low speeds, but if you ever went very fast, it would struggle, it would like jerk, like it wasn't getting enough air. So we put this on there, totally fixed the problem. It was actually kind of astounding. So I thought it was a needle issue, jetting issues can be troublesome, but no, it was definitely turbulence, and that can cause you issues. The advantage of forcing air into the airbox with the angle rather than just being direct. From people's reports who've used this, I've heard that if you orient it this way, as though this were on the top of the box, as you can see, this snorkel goes into the box and it's got this long front and long descent. Whereas this one just has this descent. At this point is essentially the center of the airbox, but it only has a short opening because it's intended for a KLX250, a true dirt bike, a true two-stroke dirt bike, which is only meant to go 30, maybe 40 miles an hour. So what people have found experimenting is if they put it this way, they'll get a bit more torque, and if they put it this way, they'll get a bit more horsepower. So I'm assuming that the Kawasaki engineers had intended the snorkel to be this way for the KLX. Knowing what I know about fluid dynamics and airflow, having a laminar flow, which is a very consistent, uniform flow of fluid, makes it a lot easier to pull it through. Whereas this, it barely has a chance to form this uniform flow before it has to hit this curve and be all disrupted. Whereas this is a long time to kind of organize itself so that then it can make this curve. At high speeds, having a very uniform flow would reduce friction, but at low speeds, you would just want it to be as open as possible in order to get as much air. I believe that you could get both benefits if you were able to get a snorkel that was exactly just as long. So what I did was I went, and I know this thing doesn't look all that great, but I went and I took Plasticard, which is something you can get at any hobby store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and made up a snorkel, and it's painted, which is the paint that I have available, or a snorkel extension. It goes on like this. So you can see, like that. You can see in there, one sheet of very thin, like 1mm paper, 0.75mm, and I wrapped it around, made sure it was all the same size throughout, wrapped it around this. Then I went and I measured across, and up, because it's basically square. I mean, this thing is pretty close to square. And used sheets of like 3mm, put those in there, just enough so that then it would sink in and sit correctly. Then I took another sheet of that 0.75mm and folded it over, going in and across back here, because I figured that just having the exposed surface would allow the layers to separate and then it would get pulled in over time, whereas having this smooth single layer of plastic makes it so that it won't be able to pull apart. The layers won't be able to delaminate. And I painted it because it kind of looked ugly, and paint does make a smoother surface. Of course, I do need a duct tape around it. Okay. So I think I found the reason why this is beneficial. It extends right to the edge of where the airbox drops off. I'll direct that air right into it.